Welcome to the new version of Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast, the podcast for real estate agents everywhere. I'm Lisa B, and together with Bjorn Kunzel, we're going to talk about everything real estate. We talk about what's working, what's not working, what's new, what's old, technology, and anything else to do with real estate. We'll answer your questions from the Facebook group Let's Talk About Real Estate. So if you have a question, we can help. Join the Facebook group today. And again, welcome to the show. All right, Bjorn, today we have Chris Janzon and Mike Lowrie with us. They happen to be some of your team members in eXp in South Australia. And today we're going to talk about why top producers should join eXp. So eXp, just to give a background, eXp started in about 2009 in America. And a lot of the top producers didn't join eXp at the start. And then more or less thinking it was too good to be true, they waited and they regretted it. So today I want to talk to you guys about the benefits of joining eXp, especially today just for top producers. So who'd like to go first in what are the benefits of joining eXp for a top producer? Chris, would you like to? Or?
Yeah, look, I guess, I think it's really just looking at the numbers. Like I was talking to somebody who does around 87 transactions year on year recently. And when I broke down what they would take home based on an average split, I guess, of 60% if they got to a certain level within the franchise model that they're in. And, when I broke it down to eXp, it's a six-figure difference. And that's why we really talk about net life in eXp over gross commission, because perception always isn't the reality with a lot of high performers in a traditional model. They might write, some significant numbers in terms of gross commissions, but when you break down their costs, and a lot of top performers are expensive beasts. And, by the time they take out their wages of their support staff to 40% split, franchise fee coming off the top, their net proposition is often far less than what it is within eXp. And this individual that I'm talking to, who's in a franchise model at the moment, doing about 87 transactions a year, the difference between what they're earning now to eXp life was six-figure difference. And when I broke it down to them, and that's a lot of the conversations I'm having with agents in a traditional model, is I'm just saying, look, I'm going off, your transactions on an average commission times by, and then we break it down and work off, I'm assuming you're on 60%. And pretty much when I did the breakdown, his response was, you hit the nail on the head.
Just on that, Chris, I've actually calculated some numbers here just for anybody that might be watching, but I've been a bit generous. I've put them on a 65% commission split. Yep. And I've assumed $1 million performers on an 80% commission split. So let's say you're a 500K writer and you're on a 65% commission split. That's going to be looking at a figure of around about $295,750 in your pocket.
Yep. That's
obviously tax and super each year. Okay, once you take off a franchise fee and then the 35%, sorry, that goes to the company. Mm-hmm. So at eXp, you'd be on $467,360. So there's a difference of $171,610 a year in 1 year. Now, you calculate that over 10 years, you're looking at $1.7 million better off that agent's going to be over 10 years. Now, when you introduce the share program, because that agent would qualify for our Icon Award, and they would receive $30,000 in shares each year, which is another $300,000. So that agent will be $2 million better off over the next 10 years without doing any more figures than what they're currently doing.
That's superannuation.
Normally as well, they may need a personal assistant or some sort of assistant to write those numbers, because that's sort of the numbers that I was writing with an assistant. And I haven't even calculated the cost of an assistant in there. So that's being very generous, assuming that they're doing it by themselves with no staffing costs. Now you go up to the next level at $750. And once again, assuming there's no personal assistant involved or no staffing costs, which I'm sure there are, but let's just assume there aren't. And let's assume they're on a 65% commission split. Their figures are going to look like around about $414,050 before tax and before super's taken out, which is a difference of $303,000 better off that they would be at eXp, because at eXp at $750, they'll keep $717,360. Okay, because eXp only take $32,640, regardless of what you write. Now, that's a massive difference. $303,000 a year better off that agent would be at eXp That's almost coming close to doubling their income in 1 year. Now, add the shares on top of that, that agent is now $3.3 million better off over a 10-year period at eXp. Now, $3.3 million, let's just say you park that towards your retirement. What does your retirement look like now? Okay.
Yeah.
That's not even including rent roll, and that's not even including building a team or growing a team. So you take $1 million agent, for example. Now, let's be generous and say they've negotiated an 80% commission split. Let's assume that they don't have any staffing, which we all know that they do, but let's assume that they don't. That figure would be $728,000 after their franchise fee on an 80% commission split, approximately for $1 million performer, which is fantastic. But at eXp, they'd actually keep $967,360, which is a difference of $239,000 on an 80% commission split. Now, I actually came from an 80% commission split. I wasn't writing $1 million, but I came from an 80% commission split. And I did have to have a personal assistant to operate in that. So that's $2.3 million better off than $1 million agent would be if they're on an 80% split right now. And assuming that they're going to get their shares, which of course they will, because they'll smash the Icon Award out the order, that's $2.7 million. So a 500K performer, $2 million better off over 10 years. A 750K performer, $3.3 million better off over 10 years. And a $1 million performer, at least $2.7 million better off. Now, assuming that they're not on an 80% commission split, that number just grows. It's just basic maths. Very simple.
And that's exactly what I worked out with the individual I was talking to that's doing 87 transactions per year. The difference was currently they're on $102,226 after all expenses, taxes, super, etc. Versus eXp, $327,569 net life.
Wow.
So they're $225,334 net life better off under the eXp model, just plugging their real life figures right now, year to date, what they've sold. And that was working conservatively off of a average commission of $6,600. Okay, now I'm sure they're getting more than that. Might be some that are slightly under that, but I went in super conservatively. And that ended up equating to $2.25 million difference to that individual in 10 years' time. And that individual is my age. Like, I'm 38. So in 48, by the time you're 48 years of age, that's the difference of a couple $1 million right now that we're talking about. And we all know how quickly 10 years go by. But Bjorn hit the nail on the head. How many top performers get the opportunity to build their own rent roll? I mean, these guys that are top performers are turning over some serious transactions. How many of those transactions and that asset are they just ticking and flicking and giving away for as simple as a 1 week letting fee? Here in our average market, weekly rent's probably about $400, $450 versus the asset, it's worth about $3,500 to buy per property management right now. A huge difference.
Big time.
Okay. So that's a thing top performers really need to consider, is that, you either go into being a business owner, and we know what comes with all the risks attached to that, or do you look at this, you better net life off, but also you get to build your own rent roll on the side as well. That's yours entirely.
Big time. Okay, Mike, what do you think? Why do top producers need to join eXp? Why do they need to look at it?
Well, these guys obviously hit a fair amount of nail on the head. I look at, someone who you'd call a top producer, and it's generally, let's be fair, it's 99% about the money that they're going to make. That's why they're going down that path of wanting to, list and sell, 80, 90 houses a year. Listening to that there, it's not a position that I'm in, so I always try and take a backwards seat a little bit on this, but just try and consider what that may look like. I look at it and they go, even that top producer might say, I've got to write that, 87 listings per year or whatever it was to get the money that I need, so they're looking at maybe their end dollar figure. Whereas what they could look at, they go, well, that's what you need because you've figured out I've got to sell 90 houses a year to take off that split, those associate fees, etc. You could almost reverse engineer that and go, well, okay, to write that same, to get that same money, let's look at what you need to do under this eXp model. And it might just mean that, well, they still become, that top producer in terms of their net life, but it's probably by doing about a third of the transactions. So then all of a sudden they're going, okay, I don't have to do 87 transactions, let's call it 90. I've got to do 30. So I don't need to pay for that associate, et cetera, et cetera. And now I've just, 2x'd my lifestyle, so it always should come down to that bottom result, you know, and what a top producer is. Now, sure, there are some that go, look, you know, I want to be $1 million agent. Cool, you know, go for gold. But if it means you're $1 million agent who takes home 250 grand a year, it's probably
and has no life.
And has no life, and potentially a family lifestyle that's, you know, regrettable and you know, not comfortable and happy at home. That still, I would imagine, portrays back into your business life. So, you know, if you're not comfortable and happy at home, you're probably not comfortable and happy at work as well. So, yeah, it's something that you could go both ways and go, look, I still want to do my 90 transactions and I'm really good at it, or I want to crack 100 transactions. Okay, well, if you really do, there's a model here that will have you 300-400 grand better off. Or if you want to earn that sort of money, then cool, we can provide a model that you've got to write 30-40 transactions and have a much better lifestyle.
I love that.
And that extra income, you know, the other thing is that another thing's been touched on is what that extra income can do. Like we talked about the shares there. Yeah, granted, shares, they'll go up, they'll go down. But that's assuming they stay stagnant. Those, you know, whatever it was, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of shares over 10 years, you know, normally share prices are averaging 8% a year. That's probably close to double after 10 years. It's the same as the real estate market. So, you know, that's not taking into account what that extra income is now, $3-4 million better off over 10 years. And then the other thing I say is, look, if you go and take the time approach to it and give yourself more time with less listings or less, you're not having to transact as much, creating, you know, a bit more income, what you can do with that income, whether it starts to be better investments, whether you invest more in real estate. And then, yeah, you know, as we know with real estate, you park it, you forget it. And in 20 years, after you've earned an extra 2-3 million, you've got an extra 10 properties in your portfolio. It's not too bad a result in my books.
Yeah.
But
So why aren't agents joining? Why wouldn't you?
I don't know why you wouldn't. That's the first answer from me. You know, I think we probably look back at this 12 months ago as to when we started it. We're like, okay, it's a bit tried, untested a little bit. But for me, I looked at it and just said, look, the numbers stack up. It makes sense. You know, I consider myself, I wouldn't say a risk taker, but a pretty calculated decision maker. And I think all three of us looked at it and said, well, it's a no-brainer in terms of the three-pronged effect it can help provide with better comp split shares, revenue share. Even if two of those things didn't apply, number one is better than what we're on anyway. Yeah. I think it's just people are hard to change their way of life. I think, you know, they've been, especially top performers, they're likely been doing it, you know, 10 years. They grew up under a boss and said, this is how you have to do it. And that's all that they know. It's going to take some time to, you know, keep shaking the trees, but the smart ones will figure it out quicker. Yeah. The smart ones will benefit longer.
You know what it is, Lisa? I think it's fear.
Yeah,
people are scared because they are handcuffed. And the relationship's all good when they're bringing in revenue for whoever they're working for, but until they, you know, and this is the thing that I don't like about Australians. The Americans do this beautifully. They are all about encouraging you to be more successful than yourself. They're all about you being a true, genuine entrepreneur. Here in Australia, though, our mentality always has been, do well, Lisa, just don't do better than me because I'm the big kahuna here. But I want you to do well. I believe you. And for that reason, we've just had that mindset drummed into our industry for generations, for decades now. So it's more so now us trying to help agents change that mindset about their belief to back themselves, to put themselves first. But a lot of them are hamstrung because they put all this intellectual property into a business that's not theirs from day one, that when they leave, they generally don't get it. Yeah. So every contact, every person, every relationship that they're entering in there today, tomorrow, no, they think it's their client, but it's not. It's the business's intellectual property, and that's what stinks with our industry. I think that's where we get it hugely wrong, because at the end of the day, before someone becomes a contact or considered a piece of data, there was a communication, there was a relationship, there was a conversation that was had at the beginning, and the agents don't get rewarded for that. The business owns it after the process of all the work the agent did in the first instance.
100%, Lisa. If there were law changes tomorrow which stated that if an agent leaves an agency the agent gets their data and the agency retains their data, we'd have 1,000 agents tomorrow.
Yeah, oh, for
We'd have
sure.
1,000
For
agents
sure.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they're scared because they've been building up a database for 10,
Yeah.
15 years. And they're scared that when they leave that particular model, that there's going to be litigation, there's going to be lawsuits, there's going to be all sorts of things. Now, I'm lucky because I came from an 80% commission split and I was happy. I get a lot of people that say, thank you very much, but I'm happy where I am. Well, I was happy where I was too.
Yeah.
But there's two things. You can either be happy and complacent. There's three types of people in the world, Lisa. There's people that don't know what happens. There's people that wonder what happens. And there's people that make things happen. Right? I make things happen. I don't sit on my backside. I make things happen. I'm the master of my own destiny. Now, I looked at the future and I said, I can stay where I am on an 80% commission split, a very comfortable, very cruisy life, stay in my comfort zone, working for somebody who's like a best mate, right? Max Demerick from Weeks and Macklin, fantastic guy, still love him to this day, and still be very comfortable and still earn my $200,000 a year and be very comfortable writing, you know, 450 to 500K a year and live a very comfortable life. But that's now, that's short-sighted. That's the racehorse with the blinkers on, the 100-meter sprint or whatever they do, Mike. I don't know horses, right? But that's the racehorse with the blinkers on. I'm looking at the Clydesdale, the marathon. I'm looking at, I've got a 4-year-old. I've got a 7-year-old. I'm not short-sighted. I'm looking long-term. Now, what's an extra, for me, what's an extra $2 million for me over 10 years going to do for my family? Well, it means that I could be retired in 10 years. It means if I got into eXp 10 years ago, I'd probably be retired now, which means that I could focus on whatever my children are focused on. It means that I can watch my children grow up now because I've got my daughter out there playing. As soon as I finish this meeting, I'll go and have some time with her. It's short-sightedness and fear. They are the only things that would make somebody not join eXp, because when you look at it, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's like, do you want to live or do you want to die? That is almost how black and white it is. It's like, well, let me just think about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that's a bit of a weird analogy, but that is seriously how black and white it is for anyone who understands it. It is a no-brainer. But fear of litigation is what's keeping people where they are.
So what would you say to them? Okay, I'm a top performer. I'm bringing in, you know, 500, 600K, whatever. What would you say to them?
Okay, I would say if you're a top performer, you're likely a referral-based agent. And if you're a referral-based agent, people do not care about your brand. People do not care about your office. People do not care about where you're located. People like you for you. You are the brand. You can let your boss retain the database and not even touch the database, and you will still earn more money because you only need to transact 1/3 to a half of what you're transacting now to earn the same amount of money. So I would say, if your office is giving you 100% of your leads, and that's the only place that you're getting business from, and there's one gentleman that I've spoken to who's like that, and we've sort of said to him, well, I get it. You're getting 50 houses handed to you a year on a silver platter. You may only be earning a 50% commission split from them. But if you came to us, how many houses would you list? He's like, probably about 10 or 12. And I'm like, well, maybe you are better off staying where you are because you're silver platter, you're spoon fed.
Yeah.
But if you're not spoon fed and you look at it and you go, well, the office has given me 5% or 20% or 30% of my leads. If the office is giving you over 60% of your business, stay where you are. If the office is not giving you 60% of your business, then you're an absolute fool.
Yeah,
do not take charge of your future.
You know, I'm sorry to jump in. I would ask that agent, go, well, let's say, you know, you're getting 50 houses handed to a year. If you turned around to those 50 clients, especially if they're repeat clients, I would say that sounds more like a land division.
Developers and builders.
Yeah, land division. If that agent probably turned around to those developers and said, look, I'm going to potentially move on, what would that mean for this relationship? I'd say a minimum 50-50 chance that developer goes, well, we've been working with you. We haven't been working with your office brand necessarily. We've been working with you, and, you know, we'd happily follow you across, you know, especially if he turns around and goes, well, in the back of his head and goes, well, I'm going to be on an extra 10 or 20% commission split, and probably at 50 sales a year, eventually an extra 40% commission split. He could turn to that developer and go, well, I'll probably be able to do you a better deal anyway. And if I know developers, that's where they're going. Like, they're not going to the brand, they're going to who's giving him that better deal.
Yeah.
And that comes again to he's in his comfort zone and he's got the fear of his ability.
It's just he's not just being given the right information. And that's the other thing. Yeah. Those top performers who are writing 5, 6 or so, 100K a year, they're under a principle generally telling them, oh, you know, don't go there, don't do this, don't do that. because, and they'll have their reasons, or brand. Most of it's around brand. And you're better here. We'll get you your own office, all that sort of stuff. It's just another mooring line to stop them there to not be able to move on and grow.
Yeah.
And you want to be cautious putting all your eggs into one basket too, because you know, if you feed from someone else's hand, then I feed from my hand and my hand only. So, and I've seen agents who have remained loyal to the business owner more so than themselves, because they treat it like a job versus this is a career and this is your own lifestyle that you can create. And when the business owners has sold the business from under them without even notice, not even letting them know, all of a sudden they're in panic mode. Well, that hand that once fed me is now changed hands as such. And I've seen real estate agents' careers get disrupted, and they've jumped from office to office to office because they were used to feeding from that one source and that one hand for too long.
Yeah,
and you can become very vulnerable. It might be good initially to get those leads, but like Mike said, I'm sure those people, whether you're with that office or a different brand, they're dealing with you at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, put it this way, Lisa, we started this, the three of us, about just a little over 13 months ago, and there's only three of us, okay? We're now sitting at, what do we got, an agent count of 8 now? So we've got 8, right? And we've got about another 6 or 7 that are ready to join. And so the cat's out the bag. People are seeing it everywhere. It's just the people that get in earlier are going to have more benefit than the people that take longer to get in. So this is why Chris and myself and Mike sat down, the three of us together, and we did this venture together because we want to be the 4 founders. We want to be the Wright brothers, discovering flight. That's what this is like. This isn't just a. Sorry.
Don't the Wright brothers crash?
Well, they did. But we're not. But you know what? Even if you crash, they still discovered flight, mate. They still discovered flight. So, but we haven't crashed, and we've done very well. But there's not many businesses out there that go from 3 to 6 to 8 within 12 months. There's some agencies out there that have been building for 8, 9, 10 years that still only got 3 or 4 people. So, and the people are moving over from the franchises. Chris left a business directorship. Simon Bashara left a business directorship. I left an 80% commission split, and there's other business owners looking at this as well at the moment as we speak, because the overheads have disappeared.
Okay, so now we'll go on to business owners. So Chris, if I can ask you, so what would you say to business owners when they've got expenses, they've got liability, they've got staff, they've got risk, they've got all those sorts of things? What would you say to a business owner that's maybe subsidizing 2 salespeople or subsidizing more, than that? And not earning the income they should be? What would you say to them?
Firstly, I feel for them at the moment, in light of lockdown after lockdown after lockdown. You've still got expensive commercial real estate leases that have to be paid. You've still got wages that have to be paid. So it's scary out there for business owners. And I'm grateful I'm no longer one, because my business, it costs me just under $1,000 a month for me to operate and keep my doors open, whether there's a lockdown for a week, a month, 2 months. I can hold that cost forever and a day and keep my business open with nimble, robust subscription fees without all the overheads. And, I get it. It's a contracting market at the moment. There's less and less stock. There's less and less transactions. And that immediately affects business owners' cash flow, because they will hold supplier accounts and wages for a period of time, and their cash flow is influenced by transactions and settlements. So, it's scary out there, particularly if businesses have high expenses with accounts like, supplies, real estate and marketing, vendor paid advertising if it's not up front. Plus, if you're holding a lot of debit credit retainers, like I know there's a lot of business owners throwing sweet debit credit retainers out there at the moment to try and swing agents their way, and you just got to be really cautious in a really contracting market like it is at the moment, where there's less transactions and settlements for cash flow. Yeah.
So what were your monthly expenses before?
We were just over 30 grand to break even with wages, rent, insurances, everything in between.
And a lockdown, that's a lot of money, isn't it? In a lockdown, you've got to pay the wages, you've got to do all those things, and now it's $1,000. So you wake up on the first of the month and go, okay, $1,000, instead of waking up going, shit, this month I've got to bring 30 grand before I even open the doors just to make the place,
Exactly.
When your commission splits 100, when your commission splits 100%, you are your own business here at eXp, but you've got all the back end support. I believe with our 60,000 strong agent network, there is over 600 head office staff around the world that are available 24/7 through our online platforms such as Weld. Now, if you look at what Facebook's done, what Netflix has done, what Amazon's done, this is the exact same thing that eXp is doing. It's going to eliminate a lot of overheads and a lot of expenses. So for example, you can run an Amazon account and you can actually buy and sell and supply, and all you do is pay a small percentage to Amazon. You don't even have to touch the product anymore. Whereas traditionally, you'd buy a warehouse, you'd buy some product from China or wherever you bought it from, you'd import it over here, then you'd get shipping to take that product and put it into that warehousing. And then from that warehousing, you'd have staff that would need to pick that product and then send that product out. And all of a sudden your profits are dwindling all the way down. And that's your retail store, basically. And Amazon is so successful because they've eliminated all of that. And somebody can become an Amazon store owner, for example, and from the comfort of my hand without even seeing or touching or feeling a product and make profits. Okay. So eXp is doing the same thing because I'm here with my home-based office. I can operate at a 24/7 capacity if an emergency situation arises. So top performers like to deliver their clients with information immediately. Okay. Now, also with some of the models, such as the franchise models, there's a lot of back-end information that you're locked out of as an agent. Okay. And only the business owner has control over that. Here at eXp, there's only one stage that we need to go through, which is get the marketing paid before we can push a button to make the property go live. And that's it. Every single other factor of my business is 100% in my control, in my hands. And if something happens, I get sick or I go away for a holiday, I can just quickly flick Chris or Mike onto that property at the touch of a button, and then they have full access to everything as well. So the stress is alleviated. The management of running a business is smooth and simple because everybody in eXp has their own set designated role. So accounts is accounts. You know, admin, processing of files is processing of files. It's a very structured, very organized system, and it's like an Amazon warehouse, and we are the consumer.
If I can add to that as well, Lisa, I think just not to get differentiated with when Bjorn said you've got access to and be able to do everything yourself. You can if you want. You know, for me, that I'm that sort of person. I like to make sure I've, you know, entered the listing into the system, got the marketing collateral and all that put together. And I know a lot of agents don't. They almost want to, you know, be dropping the paperwork off on the front desk on the way through back to the lunchroom. That's pretty close to achievable as well. Like, you know, the admin support, if you said, yeah, look, I've uploaded the listing into the system, they do. The admin support goes, okay, bang, the email goes out probably within the hour to the vendor. Thank you for, you know, joining us at eXp. Here's a copy of your listing agreement, blah, blah, and that all gets taken care of. So don't want to make people think that we have to do it all ourselves. You can if you wish, but there is a lot of support that can effectively, once again, as a part of this model, just alleviate a lot of work.
If it's 11:30 at night and something needs to be done, I've got the ability to be able to jump in and get it done, or I've got the ability to flick an email to someone in head office and get them to do it for me. So exactly what Mike's saying, but it's nice to be able to have that control and have that ability that you're not locked out of anything within your system.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So just in summary, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think you know, at the moment for business owners, this year is okay because we're in a falsified economy. Let's be honest, everything's very insulated because of massive GDP, you know, contributions, government support and assistance. I think in the coming next year onwards, when the government's not going to be stimulating the economy as much and expecting you and I to do it, I think it's going to be some interesting times because I think we're going to see more bigger businesses and more little businesses consolidate. So you might see more super offices. Because at the end of the day, with less and less transactions, I can bet you bottom dollar, I'm talking agents right now, they want more share of the pie. They want a higher commission split. And they're going to their business owners who are on maybe 60% at the moment, asking them, hey, can you give me a bit more higher split because I'm doing less turnover, less transactions? Now I get it. The business owner generally going to say no, 99% of the time, because on a 60% split, their margin for profit or pain is probably somewhere between 6 and 9% at best. So if they give them another 5%, 10%, it's a pointless exercise. So I think 2022 onwards is going to be an interesting time of year for business owners, consolidation and super big businesses.
Yeah, big time.
or models like ours.
Yeah.
Online.
Right.
Amazon's.
So now I want to just you guys think of somebody who's a top producer and what you would say to that person, right? Just a couple of sentences. What think of that person, what would you say to them about joining?
I would say if you've got one of these badges behind me, I would just say flick it to one of these and you're going to be a shitload better off. End of story. Simple as that.
Chris, what would you say
Do
to
the
them?
math.
I always ask them the question, like, what's their why? What's important to them? Like, what do they want to achieve? Is it just about chasing commission every 30, 60 days for the rest of their life? So talking about what's important to you, not your business owner, not the brand. What are you looking to achieve in the next 10, 20 years? And secondly, give me your numbers and I'll plug it into the eXp calculator, I guess, that we've got set up here, and I'll show you the difference. What will end up in your bank account difference month on month, quarter on quarter, year on year, in comparison to what you're on at the moment.
Awesome.
You know, it's
Doesn't get
amazing.
any more real than that.
With all the models, because there's a lot of models out there. Chris and I ran spreadsheets against every single other model you could possibly imagine. I'm not going to say the names of them here, but if you can think of them or you can find them online, no matter how big or small their name may be, we ran the calculator against them, and we looked at the calculator on a 12-month, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, and on every single occasion, eXp just came out miles in front for support. It came out miles in front for the earnings that you were going to generate. It came out miles in front as being the only one that gave a listing and selling agent multiple streams of income in revenue share, company shares, and the ability for ownership of a rent roll that you don't even have to manage.
Yeah.
Well,
the reality is,
a rent roll, you don't even have to manage it. You just set, sign, and forget, and it's taken care of. And you own that asset. The only one that had that. It's the only one that's paying shares, and we're a NASDAQ publicly listed company. So, this is the legit, this is the real deal. If you have a look at the largest network in Australia is worth around 500 million. eXp is worth over 2.5 billion US dollars. We are not small players here. We are one of the biggest players in the game. Okay, the only one that's got more agents than us is the Century 21 network, which has got a whole series of Realogy, I think they're called. They've got numerous, there's like 10 or 20 companies. All right. So this is the only model that when you do the math and you plug in, it gives you more support, more company shares. You've got residual income. You've got a retirement plan. This is a plan that's not just about listing and selling today. And the reason why I left somewhere where I was happy and looked at this is because I looked into my future, and I could see that if I started Kunzel Estates one day, nobody would want to work for me at Kunzel Estates. Okay. If I owned a franchise, I'd always have to worry about those guys leaving my franchise and starting their own franchise right next door to my franchise. Because the franchise that builds me up, that then gives me staff, that then builds them up to then compete against me, because the franchise only cares about the franchise 7 or 9%. So when this model got released and agents everywhere knew that it's been around, yes, it works, yes, it's not going anywhere, who's going to want to work for one of them? So even if I do go and build that up, how am I going to get staff there? So I looked at it long term, and I thought eventually everybody's going to cotton on. And after eXp's been around for 3 or 5 years, we're going to be absolutely everywhere. And I want to be at the forefront of that, so that when I build a team, I'm reaping the maximum benefit and rewards from that, and can then go into a training role and then help other agents that are coming new into the industry to help them feed their families and do the best that they possibly can for themselves too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Mike, picture of someone in mind. What would you say?
Oh, look, I think Chris hit a lot of it on the head with, ask them the why. So I would go down the path. I'd ask them why not. And to be honest, that's what I did. Like I spent probably 2-3 months trying to find out why not. Like I rang as many eXp agents as I could. I knew they were going to tell me, what I wanted to hear, but I just asked enough questions and tried to find the fault. And I literally at one point Googled or YouTubed at the time. I was like, why eXp is bad. Now, as you know, on YouTube, you can type in anything, you'll find something for it.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't. I know it sounds cliche and very salesy, but I honestly couldn't find, what's the problem with eXp. But I would just challenge them to sit down there and tell me everything that they have that's so good for them now and why it's better than this model. And if they convince me otherwise, then I'll tell them to stay where they are, but yet to find someone to do it.
And 100%, like, the individual I was talking about earlier, 87 transactions, right, they've done year to date, which is far more than me. Yet when I looked at their numbers, and I'll show any agent this, I'll show you my group certificate, I was 100,000+ better off than that individual doing 87 transactions a year, which is almost double the amount of transactions what I'm doing. And there's two things that don't lie in life, Lisa. It's the scales when you jump on them weight-wise, and your group certificate. Those numbers are real. And I'm prepared to show any agent out there the realness of this, and I'll give you my group certificate and we can compare. Now, it's not an ego thing, but that's how authentic and genuine and passionate we are about this, because I'll be honest, a lot of agents are great at filling the funnel, and they're really good at lots of seepage, but they're not really good at managing the end product, which is what they end up in their bank account at the end of the year, financial year. So that's how much we're prepared to commit and show.
Even on another
There's no smoke and mirrors.
Even on another note, Lisa, I've had clients that have dealt with me at my previous employment that are repeat referral, because most of my business, like 95% of my business is referral. Just look after people, they come back. It's so bloody simple. But anyway, I've had the clients that I've dealt with previously in the previous employer that now I've dealt with in this employer, and they're like, man, you were really good before, but this is chalk and cheese, Bjorn. What have you got? Have you just gone like from a Datsun into a rocket ship or something? Like, seriously, it's this that you're offering me, and this, and the way that the expenses have all come down, but I'm still getting the same leverage. Like simple things like we've got a technology that we're using that's bringing in 5 times more inquiry rate than realestate.com. All right. I'm just going to leave it at that. So there's more than just money.
Yes.
There's a lot.
We've got the tools and everything else.
Tools,
exactly.
There's everything you can need. And there's technology and
that'll
ways
blow your mind
now that are really, really impressing the clients. I've had clients that have been in tears with some of the things that I've offered them, which I won't go into here, but some of the things that we are giving people are huge. Like the value is just massive, and it's not costing me a fortune to do it. And people are crying and tearing up, saying, "Are you seriously? Are you seriously giving me that? Why are you giving me that? Oh, you just sold my house for me. Like, you've done enough for it." No. This is what's happening, and people are crying. Right now, I know that sounds a little bit corny, but this is a very powerful model on a logical and also an emotional viewpoint, and the clients are absolutely loving it. I've yet to have one client that says, "Oh, that sounds like a load of rubbish, that eXp stuff." They're all like, "Tell me what?" So, and it does that, and you've got this, and you've got that, and you're charging me half the amount up front. Like, this is a no-brainer, Bjorn. And I'm like, exactly. That's why I joined. They're like, yeah, where do we sign? I have not lost a listing in this model in the last 8 months. Simple.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, thanks, guys. So top producers, give any one of us a call, and we're happy to show you any of the figures, the tech, the systems, anything. You're crazy if not. And my summary is just back yourself. Just have faith in yourself that you can do this, because you've got all the systems, all the support, everything you need. Just back yourself.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Hello.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a question about real estate, then please join the group on Facebook, also called Let's Talk About Real Estate. For those of you who are interested in eXp, please join us at 10 a.m. Brisbane time every Wednesday morning for eXp Explained. Thank you again for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and see you next week.